The Fed will seize your money. Gerald Celente. According to Gerald Celente, we are in the worst social, economic, and geopolitical crisis in modern history. This statement, or open secret, may not be too far-fetched, as the black swan events of the past 3 years have altered the course of our normal. A black swan event is an unpredictable event that usually has severe consequences. This could have any kind of implications going forward, if not already, and some even argue that the Fed would take your money. Hello and welcome to today's video. We will go over how we are living through the worst social, economic, and geopolitical crisis in modern history, at least according to Celente. We will go on to highlight how this ties to your money and how the Fed fits in. For us to get a clear view of this, we need to point out the challenges we have faced, how we have responded to them, and how this has led to where we are. If you watched the movie Midnight in Paris, it is possible that you may have encountered the term Golden Age thinking. The Golden Age represents a period of peace, stability, harmony, and prosperity. In the absence of all this, people may be forgiven to fall victim to the Golden Age thinking theory. This is simply the belief that it would have been much better to have lived in a different era than the present one. But can you blame people for wishing to have lived in a different era given what has happened in the past 3 to 4 years? Let's go over the major global events and how they have contributed to modern society. 2020 will be remembered not only for the coronavirus pandemic, but how we responded to it. The coronavirus pandemic was declared a global healthcare emergency by the World Health Organization, or WHO for short. The world has plunged into lockdowns. Most people lost their jobs. Markets crashed. This crash happened between February and April. On March 16th, the Dow fell by 13%, marking its biggest single-day drop since 1987. But shortly after, the markets were in a bull market. The crypto market was the biggest beneficiary as it reached its peak in November 2021. The financial market took another downturn as a bear market kicked in. In 2022, another black swan event happened, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. To be fair, wars are always happening in the world, but not all wars are created equal. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has an impact on energy and food supplies. This was followed by high inflation. In 2020, central banks, including the Fed, were printing more money to stimulate the economy. As they tried to fix this problem, they created another one. The Fed had to fight inflation through rate hikes in 2022. This crashed the markets further. It was one problem after another. Some would even say that we were jumping out of the frying pan straight into the fire. To recap, here are the major events that have defined our society in the past few years: COVID pandemic, Russia-Ukraine conflict, rate hikes. With this in mind, how does Gerald Celente fit in? Before we answer that, here is a question we must ask first. Who is Gerald Celente? He is an American trend forecaster, business consultant, and author. He is known for making predictions about the global financial markets and other important events. Does he see the Fed taking money from the people? This is what he had to say. Celente's predictions are based on how central banks are dealing with inflation. He claimed that the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, can only lend money to countries on the condition that they can raise interest rates by 1% above inflation. Interest rates are important as they dictate the mood of the economy. Higher interest rates make borrowing very expensive. This means that individuals and businesses would cut down on spending. This would likely shrink the economy. On the other hand, lower interest rates encourage spending and economic growth. As interest rates go up, businesses are affected. Existing businesses may be forced to close down, while it is difficult for new ones to set up shop. This can be reflected in the office space market. Gerald reiterated that the office occupancy rate was only 32%. He thinks this will kill the commercial real estate business and possibly trigger the biggest housing crisis in modern history. Not many people are comfortable with the prospect of having a housing crisis on the cards. A housing crisis led to the 2008 financial crisis. No one wants a repeat of that. A crisis of a massive scale has not yet happened, but there is no need to pretend that all is well. Another indicator to look at is the job market. People are losing their jobs. The tech industry has not been kind to its employees. In January 2023 alone, tech companies have cut nearly 60,000 jobs. And it's not small companies leading the layoffs. It's the tech giants such as Alphabet, IBM, Lyft, Google, Amazon, Coinbase, eBay, Dell, Meta, Microsoft, PayPal, Spotify, Robinhood, Snap, Salesforce, Twitter, Twitter, and Zoom, among others. Gerald Celente says this is a new world, and it will likely have winners and losers. The rich will get richer and the poor will get poorer. So how is this new order putting the average person at a disadvantage? The Fed printed a lot of cheap money. The money is backed by nothing. This caused inflation, which is killing the average person in various ways. The first one is high rents for housing. Secondly, the average person cannot afford to buy a house. The houses are bought by the elite who rent out the house to the average person. This cycle creates big profits for the elite while taking away from the average person's already vulnerable pocket. So let's get back to our initial question. How is the Fed seizing your money? Are they coming straight to your pockets, or have they found means to work around this? They are doing this through a cycle that we have already covered. Print more money, inflation, rate hikes. Inflation is bad because it reduces the purchasing power of your money. If you have $100 at the beginning of the year, the same amount will be worth less than $100 by the end of the money. This shows that in some instances, saving alone is not a good idea. It needs to be complemented by other various streams of income. He adds that another war is on the cards and could pave the way for central bank digital currencies. Many people prefer to call them CBDCs. Several countries such as Australia, Thailand, Brazil, South Korea, India, and Russia have been involved with CBDCs in one way or the other. According to Gerald Celente, CBDCs could spark a rally in the gold markets. Investors see gold as a safe haven asset, especially when there is turmoil in the markets, just as it is at the present moment. Some people have also voiced their concern over CBDCs as they are a threat to financial freedom. The real danger of CBDCs lies in how the government will be able to have control over people's money. The downturn of the economy is seen in recession fears. 70% of the economists surveyed by Bloomberg in December 2022 pointed out that the chances of a U.S. recession in 2023 are high. The Fed has maintained that it may avoid a recession by engineering a soft landing. In finance, soft landing means that a central bank can raise interest rates to fight inflation but avoid a recession. A recession could be a big blow to ordinary citizens who are already coping with the challenging economic situation we are in. The Fed will try to take your money, but it will not explicitly say so for fear of anarchy and bank runs. A bank run happens when depositors attempt to withdraw their money simultaneously in the fear that the financial institution may be insolvent. It could lead to the collapse of a bank. A good example is Lebanon. Lebanese residents cannot access their money deposited in banks since 2019. Armed and furious customers are robbing banks in Lebanon, and all they want is to withdraw their own earned money and not steal it. In the developed nation, it's a different ballgame. The Fed can simply take people's money through an aggressive monetary policy that favors inflation and high rates. The world has already experienced this from 2020 to 2022. It remains to be seen how 2023 will play out. Gerald Celente did not hold back as he gave his warning about the government. He said the government is a criminal enterprise, and when all else fails, they take you to war. Currently, geopolitical tensions are high, and it will take a little spark to plunge everyone into war. But no one wants this. This leaves the ball in the people's court. They have to spend frugally, and more importantly, they must make their money work for them.